When the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hi, everybody. This is Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Donald. And
what's happening?
hello
Oh, my goodness.
from Jamie. This is
Yeah.
Jamie the Yorkie. He's a wee bairn named after Jamie from Outlander. I can't help it. It's the only crush I have on.
And now you have a new one.
And
he's in
now
your hands.
I have his namesake, and I'm passionately in love with this little bundle of joy. Look at that face. If you're not seeing it, you should go to YouTube and see it because it's worth it, guys.
He's taken over the house. He
Yeah.
rules the house. He's tortured the other dogs into loving him because
Yeah.
at first they were not having it.
But he's fearless. They're like barking at him like, and then he just goes lick, 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 and just diffuses the whole situation. It's actually a good lesson for us all.
It is. We can learn from Jamie.
Yeah, learn to diffuse, to redirect, to bring it into the world of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Right?
So if somebody is mean to you, just lick them and they will solve all their problems.
That's true. I'm just saying.
I know.
Anyway, I want to talk about something about social media. I have this very heavy weight about social media these days because with our documentary, No Country for Old People, and I've been really engaging with the community, with the public, trying to promote this project, right? And we've gotten so busy trying to deliver it to our distributor and create this movement, which is ROAR, the ROAR movement, which you all should check out at nocountryforoldpeople.com, which is what we compare to the Women's March, but really for long-term care reform. But doing that has just taken up so much of my time that I haven't been on social media, and I feel like a weight of not being interactive with the audience, and that this is like it's such a heavy responsibility. I'm just wondering if do you have that, Dawn?
Well, I mean, you're in a position, but you're in a position of, basically driving this entire, movement and, and the film. And so, yeah, there is a big, and people want to reach out to you and they want to talk, but, there are only so many hours in the day. And right now,
only so many hours in a day. When you have a big community, you want to engage with their, posts, and it honestly can take a day. It can literally take a day every day. And Dawn, you're really good at strolling or what is it?
Scrolling.
I don't
Scrolling
know.
too. I like to scroll. I like to walk around.
Stroller.
Has nothing to do with this, but
I'm terrible at scrolling because I will fall down the rabbit hole. But you're good at going bloop, 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 like, bloop, 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 like. I can't do that. I get
no, but and that's on a social, that's socially. This is very different because, people want to engage. And you can't just throw a like on something when somebody's written 8 paragraphs to you. That's something very important, and you can't just say like, and the thing is, if you start to engage, and then again, you don't have the time. That's why people have social media teams that handle all this stuff.
I need that,
but it's got to come from you too.
The problem
is, I mean,
it's
so
really hard.
It's tough.
Well, all that to say that if you're listening and if you've tried to reach out to me in the past, I want to say 3-4 weeks, I have been horrendous in responding because I haven't even gone on. I've gone on so sporadically because we are a small team on this documentary because it's all nonprofit. And, it's like, hi, we need to talk to the graphics department. hello, this is the graphics department. Susie speaking. You know, we need delivery on whatever. Hello, this is delivery. This is Susie. What can I do? Honestly, like we are three people, and really, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had to just choose one thing that I couldn't, that I, that was going to take the brunt, and that's the social media. So just know that I will be back on social media soon. It's not like I'm not there at all, but I just can't. It's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of queries like, can we manage your social media? And I'm so afraid because you just don't know who to trust. And they all sound good. They all sound
Hmm.
good because they're very good at marketing. They're like, oh, we listen to Love Conquers Alls and we think your podcast is amazing, but you should be getting these many downloads and we can help you with that. So yeah, if you can help us with that, we would love it because the more people that can listen to this podcast, the better, because we bring great guests, and this is a great transition, Dawn, right?
That was really good. So what you're saying to me, and I gleaned this from that beautiful transition, is you want me to tell everyone about our guest today.
Who is a self-proclaimed biggest fan of Love Conquers All
Number
and has
one.
seen and listened to every episode. So
Yes.
we, of course, love her.
Today, we are thrilled to welcome an inspiring and resilient woman, Sheri Smith. A seasoned entrepreneur, Sheri has built a dynamic career from child actress to event coordination, production, screenwriting, and in the culinary world. As the founder of a successful catering business, she brought her passion for food and hospitality to life, creating a unique oceanfront vacation rental, a castle in Hawaii. Sheri is now stepping into the literary arena with her soon-to-be-released book, Mama Drama, A Journey with Bipolar and Dementia, Finding Light Through Loss and Grief. This deeply personal memoir explores her experiences caring for loved ones battling mental illness, including her husband's bipolar condition, her loving journey with her heart dog, Ray, and the challenges of her mother's dementia, all along confronting family betrayal and enduring profound loss. Through it all, Sheri finds resilience, hope, and even humor in the darkest moments. We can't wait to dive into her incredible story, and so we say aloha to Sheri Smith. Hello, Sheri.
Aloha.
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 I'm excited and grateful to be here and have some fun. Let's go. Aloha ohana. You're my family.
Thank you. I think that this story is going to resonate with a lot of people because all of us do not live in a bubble when it comes to someone, when we're dealing and caring for someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia. So at the same time, I know for me, I was going through a massive divorce, I don't know if divorces are less than massive anyway, but it was a horrific experience at the same exact time. And then, then there's a death in the family and then you're moving and you have children and you've got so many things that you're trying to juggle, and we all are trying to do. We're not just dealing with somebody with dementia. And that's what your book is about, is juggling all of these things that were equally as important to you and equally as challenging. Tell us the background of this book and describe it as you would in your words. And let's dig in.
I want to know, I digress. I want to know one thing. Do you believe in the law of attraction?
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't given it.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why you should perhaps. Do you know when I first got back to the mainland 10 years ago after living in paradise for 15 glorious, unforgettable years, I wrote a script first because I didn't know how to write a book. But my background in show business, I had final draft. I wrote a script. And guess who I pitched it to first?
Me? You did?
And you said, pass. Thank you. It's fine. It's fine. So the law of attraction, we're full circle. I mean, that to me is remarkable myself. Anyway, when something happens in my life, I ask myself, what have I learned? You got to learn from your experiences. And then I ask, what am I meant to share?
Right.
So
well, let's back up because you are so excited, and I would, as you should be, Because you have your first book that is having a soft launch. When? In couple weeks?
On my birthday. Should I say the date?
Yeah.
Okay, March 19th of this year's soft launch, which, you're hoping people will buy it and leave feedback,
Right.
reviews, because when you have the official launch, Amazon and all those other apps or platforms don't give you the right time of day
Right.
unless you have some kind of review, which
And
they're
some pre-sales. So, help the girl out but we'll have all that information later. But let's talk about Mama Drama, A Journey with Bipolar and Dementia, finding light through loss and grief. And I think what's unique about this book, and I get pitched books all the time, we do. And what's unique about this is tying in these three things that you have experienced in terms of grief, in terms of loss and challenges in different sections of your life with your dog, who you was your heart dog, your ex-husband, who that's a very complicated conversation, and then your mother, which is also a complicated conversation, so in keeping it to Alzheimer's, because that's what this stuff, this podcast is about. I think the themes, this is what Don and I honed of your themes, right, for the book is really prolonged grief and resilience and the complexities of caregiving, which happen with all different scenarios, right? But
yes.
and then in spite of all that, which was painful, and you also found friendship, humor, and spirituality. You're clearly very spiritual, very, very funny, and you're very loyal friend. So the personal journey part of the dementia caregiving, your mom's journey, let's talk about that. How did you notice the first signs of her decline, and what was that like for you?
You and my mom and the girl resonated with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna fix you. I raced to Vegas. She lived in Vegas. I lived in SoCal.
Were you close before this diagnosis?
Not particularly. I raced to Vegas and I started doing what I do. I was gonna bring her back to live with me. I wanted her to be with me, buy a house. I get to Vegas and I'm like, I need help. I don't know what to do. So I said, fine, I'm going to sell everything in this house and buy a house in near me in California. I have to work. I have a catering business. I had to work. And I would take her with me. And I found out about Bredesen. I'm going to put her on Dr. Bredesen's protocol. I will fix you, mommy. And
Right.
it just
Right.
wasn't to be.
And it wasn't going to be to be. So you leaned in, even though whatever you leaned into, it may not have been exactly the right direction, but you leaned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and I want to talk about Dr. Bredesen for a second, just so people, if you're not aware of him, who he is, can you just tell us who he is?
He's a neurologist and researcher known for his work with Alzheimer's prevention and treatment. And he developed the Bredesen protocol, a multifaceted approach aimed at reversing cognitive decline. And he has been getting amazing results.
Right.
That's why.
Let's move off of Dr. Bredesen, because this is about your book, right? And about your story, and which people can relate to, because this is, we're talking about caregivers that are listening and people that are.
My caregiving was prevented. My relative stole the end of my mom's life. He stole her from me.
Who is he?
Cousin.
Okay. A cousin of yours decided to step in. And at what stage? Like, when did this happen? Or was this?
He figured out he could take all her stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. So
that's the thing that I want to alert people to. I wasn't surprised, but it hurt. It was killing me.
Okay. So you're living in LA, right? And your mom's living in Vegas, and now she's started this journey with dementia, and this cousin is now keeping you from seeing your mom. He's hiding her location of where she's living, right?
I was prepared to call every folks home in the Bronx. I heard it was the Bronx.
Jeez. No, I mean, I'm sure this is, it's not something that we haven't heard. It may not have been, it may not have rolled out exactly like your story, but it happens. It happened in my own situation with my own siblings. So, I know that these kinds of situations can either bring out the best in people or the worst. right? And so you will certainly see the worst from people oftentimes, and so you experienced that, but you were able to navigate it. Wasn't
You know what I
easy.
didn't do that I should have done? And I tried. When I went to Vegas the first time, I got an attorney and I was going to get a conservatorship, all that stuff with Brittany and stuff. I didn't know what it was. I had to educate myself, but I was
Sure.
going to, and I should have. I should have just gotten the conservatorship. So it turns out he got it.
Yeah,
So
and
I,
here's the problem with conservatorship, because I was the conservator of person to my mother. And, if you don't have if you're not a power of attorney for the purse, which my brother was able to finagle that away from, it was in both our names, and then somehow he that's a whole nother story. But anyway, it's very difficult even going to court to try to stop somebody from, you know, interfering, even if you are the conservator, because the laws are just not in favor of the trustor, right?
yeah.
So this is a big issue that I have take issue with as well. I ended up going to court 3 times, and never having um, standing, and so it finally had to cut my losses and just go, whatever. I'm just going to have to be there and do with everything that I can, against what was coming at me. So, and I know that's what you had to do as well. So you
Except you
found,
couldn't be there because he was even keeping her physically from you.
yes. So how did you end up getting back into your mom's life once she
Well,
was getting,
yeah. Okay. So I didn't. It's a horrible ending. Apparently, she was in the Bronx or whatever, but at a person's house, she was being given care, and that's the picture on the cover of my book. My mother, she was gorgeous, and then what she ended up looking like.
so you never got back into your mom's life, is
Not
what you're
and
saying?
no,
No.
no. I missed. He kept me from the end of her life, which is it's horrible.
And so how are you dealing with this? How are you dealing? Are you struggling with guilt, regret, helplessness?
Oh,
What
yeah,
emotions
a
are
little
you,
bit of all of them, what
how do you
came out
process
of me,
that?
what I got out of me was the book.
Right.
Hopefully, help other people.
So looking back at what happened with your mom, in retrospect, you've written a book now, you look back and you say, is there anything that you feel you could have done differently, you would have done differently, that you
Get the
could tell somebody
conservatorship
if they're
With
in
the
this
conservatorship.
situation?
and the power of attorney, which she didn't want to do. She wanted him. Mom, I'm your daughter. He's your nephew, my cousin.
I think it's a common theme of people, boomers, maybe, Gen X's, who have parents of that age, who, particularly mothers, who uh, grow up, who grew up sort of deferring to the men, deferring to men, and because when my brother had my mom sign over, her will, she had a will that made both of us equal power.
Mm-hmm.
He had a living trust created where commingled my stepdad's money and hers, which she didn't want to do. I know that because we discussed that. But because he got her, she had Alzheimer's, he he had her sign over. And when she would ask me, well, where's my money? I'd say, Mark has it. She'd go, what? What are you talking about? I go, Mom, you signed it over, but you know, she was not in her right mind. And
Right.
so, but there's this sort of like base, you know, it's imprinted from your upbringing of to defer to the men. Well, they know best. They know best.
I
So
agree.
your mother, deferring to your cousin because he's the man and he came in and it was like she felt safer. And I think that we as the daughters feel, short shrift because we really are there. We are there. I was there every single day. My brother was
I know.
not at
True
all.
story. Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's something that, particularly these, our two generations, the Gen X and the boomers, Gen XX and the boomers, have to deal with. And we have to understand that we can't fault our moms because this comes from a mother from the because that's really what they grew up with. It's like you must have a man in your life for the most part. I'm not saying there wasn't rebels and women that, but and my mom was fierce, but she still had that bit of culture that was built into her. So I mean, if Dawn would say something to my mom, it was like, oh yeah, that's law, or my brother, that's law. But it was, took me it, and she respected the hell out of me. But I had to understand that and forgive her for that.
Oh
So, and
yeah.
I think that you have too. I think that you have, and
I
that's
have proof though, Susie, because in that box of crap that I carried from place to place, I had all the go here, go there. I left this amount of cash under the, and then they tried to accuse me of stealing it.
well,
That
yeah,
was that was a laugh. But I have all the when we wrote letters books are photocopies of all my proof, all my proof.
yeah. That's a yeah. Isn't that a typical situation though, where and I've talked about this too, is like be careful or listen carefully rather to what people accuse you of because it's usually what they're doing. So, that's what was happening with in my situation as well. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's like the husband who's like going, you're cheating on me when they're the ones, and you're like, what, huh?
But
Uh,
that's where their mind is because that's their reality.
yeah,
So,
that's
you know,
where their head is at. So
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of simple, but it's the truth. Um, so you're let's just I want to tie in your husband. We don't need to your ex-husband bipolar, which all of those they're all challenging. They're all that's a hugely challenging thing. I didn't again I have somewhat of a similar situation with my ex because he had a brain injury. He was thrown off the bus in London off a double decker and
Oh.
was in hospital for about a month with front lobal damage. He actually lost his sense of smell.
Oh.
And, I didn't know that when I met him. I didn't know that he had just recovered from that with, it hadn't been that long. And we met as actors on a series. And that really changes your chemistry in your brain. And not to mention he was a toxic narcissist on top of it. So that mixed in with a brain injury really was lovely.
I had already separated. I threw him out of our house in California. He threw a chair through the plate glass window. I said, you know what? You got to go. So he left and he stole our motorhome and went to Hawaii to the Big Island. And then a year later, he was tired of being poor. Come to Hawaii. We'll heal. Schmuck. I did. Because I didn't plan to be divorced. I planned to be married forever. So luckily, when I was going through this 11, 12, and 13, I wrote a journal because it was so staggering what was going on. And as I was reading it to incorporate it into the book, I'm like, holy crap, woman, what is your problem? And why didn't you run? But
But you didn't know he was bipolar, correct? He wasn't diagnosed with
no,
bipolar. So
until he went to
you're
prison.
dealing with something. It's just like somebody who's dealing with a narcissist and you don't know what it looks like. You
Right.
can't you don't know how to deal with it.
No, we didn't know what bipolar. Nobody talked about mental health in the 90s.
Right. Right. Which is why there's a big, you know,
Thank God
movement to
where
talk
we
about
are.
it. Yeah.
Thank God where we are now. Praise the Lord. People
Yeah.
like you and other people who are talking, all the celebrities are getting on TV and saying blah blah blah, whatever.
Right. No, and then, so the parallel between your ex and your mom are two, states of health that you were not aware of, don't really have any experience with it, don't really understand it, may not have known that it was even going on for a very long time while it was already starting or already been
Mhm.
there in the case of your ex. So, which is, so draining on yourself, so depleting of everything because you're trying so hard to look at it through your lens of how you see life. and that you keep thinking, well, why am I not communicating right? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, you start blaming yourself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't know a thing about narcissism. I didn't know until my ex left, and I started listening to something about narcissism. I thought that sounds exactly like him, and I literally bought every book on the shelf. I read, for a year straight, I barely slept. I mean, I was like reading and highlighting, 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 highlighting. That's him, that's him, that's him, that's him, that's him. And I was like, how did I not know this? I mean, it was textbook, and I really did a number on myself because I didn't know anything about it. And then once I knew, I was like, oh my God, I made every mistake in the book, like I did with my mom. I made every mistake in the book because you don't know. So I literally triggered the hell out of him. And which, that's not my fault. And I shouldn't have to worry about triggering him. But I certainly did because I thought I was talking to someone who had the same frame of mind that I did, which is happens a lot,
And you
right?
could reason. You thought, I can reason with them, and
Sure.
they'll get it, and then they'll show moments, little glimmers of things. Oh, they get it, and
Get
that
it.
draws you back in,
Yeah.
and then it starts all over again. And then,
Yes.
but again, if you don't know what behavior you're dealing with, there's no way you can.
That's what I wrote in my book too. Why do I always want to label something? Well, if you don't label it, you can't fix it or find whatever, find the fix
Right.
for it. If you don't know what it is, you can't just, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's an interesting correlation that you did, because those are two things that are so difficult for someone who's not experiencing either. And it's really draining. Like I know my cortisol levels were off the chart, I mean, I honestly, like again, like trying to fix my mom, I thought I could fix my ex too. I really did. And, delusions of grandeur on a major scale and cutting my losses. And finally, if he hadn't have left, I probably would have tried to the day I died because I believed that I could. I believed so much that I could. And, yeah, so that is, incredibly debilitating. So good on you for still being here on this earth, still being joyful and taking the time and the effort and the energy and everything it takes to get this onto a book, into a book, and
Thank
out
you.
there to share with others because it's not easy to
Relive it? No.
take your pain and make it your purpose.
Thank you. Yeah, Robin Roberts says something like that. Make your mess your message.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, however you say it, that's what you've done. Well, we're going to put all of your stuff in the show notes.
Thank
And
you.
I'm glad that we got to do this with our biggest fan ever. And we can't, we got, how can we not love you? Right? Because and I mean, honestly, like you said, do I believe in the law of attraction? I don't know, but I do believe in love. And I
Yes.
do believe that's why, Donald.
Yes,
You
and you
are.
know why? Do you know why you believe in love?
I do. But tell me.
I do. And that's because love is powerful. Love is contagious.
Yes.
And love conquers all. We do thank
Yes.
everyone for being here today, watching, listening. We will have all the information about Sheri and her magical world in the show notes. And if you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, share, and we will definitely see you next time on Love Conquers All. Take
Bye,
care,
everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Sheri.